knowledge, wisdom, or both? Can it be both? Let's get into that. So there's a quote, you probably heard it. It often comes up and does rounds on social media, and I'm kind of jumping on it a little bit here too. But Einstein said, knowledge is realizing that the street is one way, but wisdom is looking in both directions anyway. And if I'm going to tailor this and turn this into what I've been working on recently and kind of the infrastructure changes that have been happening behind the scenes of the club that I lead, we kind of explore how knowledge is about licensing. It's taking classes or symposiums. If you're a member of a league organization, for example, in Northern California, we have US Club. They run a lot of kind of coaching education opportunities. So we just recently had some sports performance guys come in, and there's really, really cool insight that we see. Think about going to the convention. I go to the convention every year. I talk about it. I podcast about it. I blog about it. There's so many good things that come out of that collection of people that I would connect to as knowledge. Some of the issues that we face, we see it every season where we go through the UEFA applications or we go through the B and the A license applications, and we see people who get into it, people who don't get into it, and that seems to kind of limit the knowledge, or at least the official knowledge pathway that coaches are able to obtain. Much of this is also frustrating if you want to coach at a higher level. If you're coaching in a acronym league, then there's a good chance that you need a certain license. So you need a B license or you need a UEFA X license to be able to coach. So there are some limiting factors that we are trying to say you should have knowledge to be able to do this, and the license is the stamp of approval for that. And I don't think that we're going to change that, and I'm not necessarily here to argue against the licensing pathway, but this is kind of our more formal pathway for knowledge. But then if we look at wisdom, and the concept here is knowledge is that it's a street, but wisdom is looking both ways down that street. Well, our wisdom and our knowledge is nothing if we are not living it, if we are not breathing it, if we're not immersing ourselves into this constant cycle of planning and executing and reflecting and going again and again, week after week, season after season, cycle after cycle, tournament after tournament, league game after league game. All of these things are adding to our wisdom. And then we layer that knowledge into the wisdom that we are developing, because course after course is nothing without being on the grass, but nothing is also year after year of being on the grass with no knowledge. And I've talked before about how a coach says, I've been coaching for 20 years, which is excellent. There is amazing wisdom in working with players for 20 years. There is so much that you would learn from all of those hours of engaging with players. And when someone says, I've done it for 20 years, my immediate reaction is, you may not be a good coach because you haven't obtained most recent knowledge around methodologies, around keeping up with the players and their learning styles, their learning needs. I think that you will have, or I expect you to have, an incredible ability to connect with the players, to understand the nuances of a training session so that you can get the best out of those players because you've spent so much time on the field with them. You recognize when things need to be changed up. You recognize when you might need to shout, or when you might need to push, or when you might need to put your arm around someone. That to me is an amazing wisdom. But then the knowledge underneath that is lacking because we haven't gone through any sort of formal education, any sort of collaborative experience with other coaches, with other programs, with other methodologies that you can then take back into your environment and begin to connect those dots of knowledge and wisdom. So let's talk about that and what that looks like. To give you a real life example, in my club in the Vikings in San Francisco, we have a policy, if you like, for want of a better kind of way of explaining it, that every 2 years we expect you to take on the next level of coaching. So that may be going to the D license from grassroots or the C license from the D license. And the theory that we have around it being over 2 years is that you will go and take a course, and much like your driving test, you will perform to the standards of that course. But once you drive away, you are then free to essentially do whatever you want to do again. That's standard. We know that. You can drive with your foot out the window. In coaching, you go back to running kids through lines, doing laps of the field, whatever that is. There's no one there to really check on you, because we know in a club environment, typically a director of coaching is coaching multiple teams. They have this title because, number one, they're good people and they're great around the club and everyone likes them, and they want a little bit more money. So they get this doomed title of director of coaching, where they're never really going to be successful. They're never really going to be able to do anything from that position because they are coaching 2 or 3 or 4 teams. However, in my club, my director of coaching does not coach teams. I made that commitment to him, to the club, that his role is to simply maintain the quality and the experience that our coaches are getting when they go through formal education, through this knowledge pathway, and then helping them to shape this into the wisdom that they can use so that in 2 years, they are not only ready for more knowledge, but they've spent 2 years perfecting and connecting the knowledge to their wisdom. So if you go through the grassroots and it's about play, practice, play, and it's about using guided discovery and powerful questions and challenging your players with keywords, in the club, we have a common language. We have 5 key words that every coach is starting to use, every player is understanding, and importantly, every family has been told what those key words are and how they can use them when they are supporting their player. Because you can tell families to be quiet and they won't, and they want to support. So here's how you support. You use these 5 key words. We build this structure around the club so that our players are receiving this consistent experience. And now our director of coaching is able to continuously enforce this with our coaches who are developing wisdom connected to the knowledge that they picked up in their last course. And it layers in. We don't just go and take a course for the sake of taking a course to be eligible to coach at a certain license level, or just to say that they have this license. If my 7v7 director is going to stay with 7v7 for the next 5 years, he doesn't really need to go and take a B license. C license even may still be a little bit too much for him. He has it, everything's good. But before that, it would have been, and it will be most likely in your club and in most clubs, take the next license. Put that cool license on your resume. Post on LinkedIn that you are excited to announce that you have completed the A license, the B license. I know because I did it. I did exactly the same thing. But where is my wisdom of taking the B and the A license within 3 years? I have failed, and I recognize that I could have put more time into learning what I took up from the B license knowledge-wise and then developing that wisdom. So in my club environment, and I challenge you to reflect on your club environment and ask your director of coaching what that kind of pathway is, what this development goal is. Now, our ultimate goal is to identify coaches and their specialty. I don't have wizards in my club. And a wizard, you might be a wizard as you're listening to this. You coach under 12 girls, you coach under 9 boys, and then you do goalkeeping on the side. You are a wizard, Harry. You are doing a little bit of everything and a jack of all trades. In my club, I want coaches who are confident and comfortable in a specific area. That could be working with older boys, younger girls, the 7v7 model, whatever that is. And a lot of that comes through the mentoring and the guiding that our director of coaching is doing week after week on the field with the coaches, and then pushing coaches through coaching licenses every couple of years to then be able to reflect on that and say, this is where we are at. This is looking really good right now. Or, okay, that's kind of your ceiling for now, and you found the niche that you are in. We still have a couple of wizards, and they are coaching a little bit of everything, but we are moving toward a model that has coaches working solely within specific age groups that they feel comfortable in, that they think that they are the best in. Because if they think that they are the best in it and they are applying their trade in that area, now that's half of the battle of having a coach planning and preparing and feeling comfortable for working in that environment. So we connect that knowledge and that wisdom. And I think that when we do that purposefully, it's not just the coach that's benefiting, our players are benefiting because they are receiving this consistent messaging. They're receiving this up-to-date ideas and methodologies and connection to the wider world. And as my own tagline of Studious Soccer Professional goes, our challenge for our coaches internally is to become an internal A-licensed coach. What does that mean? An internal A-licensed coach is the best coach for you and your organization and your players and your culture and your families and everything that you are trying to do. An internal A-licensed coach is that person. Now think about that. One of the constant struggles the director of coaching has, and the club has, is their staff. Keeping coaches happy, rewarding coaches, making sure that coaches are challenged and educated. And I just talked through what our process is for connecting knowledge and wisdom. But the internal A-licensed coach is a coach who speaks the same language that we speak, hence the common language that we have, 5 key words. Can a coach deliver those 5 key words? They may not be able to do it straight away. However, they will be expected to be able to deliver that over a season, over a year. By the end of 2 years, when we're starting to consider what the next pathway is for this coach and their licensing, we will reflect what we think they are at internally. Are they speaking the same language? Are they upholding the same communication standards that we of the club have, that we want our families to have, and maybe that their families have asked of us? We have this survey that goes out and families tell us, we want to know this, or we feel good about this, we don't like this. And then from that, we begin to continuously update our policies, kind of reset standards, adjust our club settings, and kind of react and respond to what our families are asking of us every season. Now, that internal A-licensed coach can do that with their teams. They can feed back to us consistently. They can give us constant updates on what's going on in their realm, and then also be connected to what else is going on across the club because they've had players that have moved on from their age group, etc., etc. So our ambition is, whilst on paper you may be a D-licensed coach or a C-licensed coach or a grassroots level coach, you should be in the right place for you, based on not only your actual knowledge, but your wisdom. And then internally, because your coaching course doesn't teach you these things, we are working on improved communication, making sure that everybody looks the part, they present themselves as the part. Did you know that our club pays coaches for 30 minutes of work before every training session? We pay them, which ties to the assumption that they are planning their training sessions, that they are turning up early to coach, and that they are communicating with their families. So we pay them to do this. And I challenge you to ask your director of coaching, hey, I want 30 minutes of planning time, please. Now, that gives us full right to then say to a coach, where's your session plan? What is your communication for this week? Is it going out on Monday after the weekend to recap on the goals that you just covered from the previous week of training, along with the goals for this week of training connected to the coming game? Or are you not saying anything? Because I look through some team chats and I see engagements from families and I don't see coaches responding. So then my challenge to those coaches is always, we are paying you to be prepared, to be organized, to be this internal A-licensed coach. What do I need to do to support you further on that? So again, I challenge you, look internal, look at your director of coaching. If you are a director of coaching, can you pay a coach for 30 minutes of organization time ahead of the training session to arrive early, to ensure they arrive early, and to reward them for the work that goes into it? Because we know when you are a coach and you step on the field, that is the final 25% of that training session. The first 75% came from analysis of the game the weekend before. It comes from the development of the training cycle or of our game model or of our training development cycle. It comes from the planning. So all of that 75% happened before you got on the field. Get on the field, final 25%, deliver those nuances, go play. Now we are connecting again, knowledge to wisdom. And in our case as a club, we are paying coaches to do that. And it's amazing what happens when you pay people to do things.